Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to focus on something really common, but often kind of quietly dealt with. The mental health shifts during perimenopause and menopause.
Exactly. We all kind of know about the hot flashes, the physical stuff, right? But the emotional and mental side of things can change, well, dramatically, sometimes leaving you feeling completely unlike yourself.
Yeah, that feeling of I'm not me anymore. We actually heard that quite a bit in our research, and it really it hits home.
It does.
So for this deep dive, we've looked at personal stories on YouTube, some expert advice from health groups, and even some scientific papers.
Right, trying to piece it all together.
Our mission, basically, is to give you a clear picture of the specific mental health stuff linked to this time, why it happens, and importantly, what you can actually do about it to help you feel informed and empowered.
Okay, so let's maybe start by outlining the specific issues that came up again and again in the sources. Anxiety was huge.
More than just everyday worry, right?
Right. Oh, way more. We're talking intense fear, sometimes panic, like actual chest pain, nausea, that constant jittery feeling. Overthinking that just won't stop.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. And even things like intrusive thoughts, obsessive kinds of behaviors, or just this like feeling of doom. It was described as a mental assault by one person.
Wow.
And it can be totally new for some women, or it can just dial up any anxiety they already had.
Okay, so really disruptive. And then alongside anxiety, depression also came up a lot.
Yes, definitely. It seems pretty common during this transition, even if you've never had depression before.
So what does that look like typically?
Well, the sources mention persistent sadness, naturally, but also hopelessness, irritability, which maybe people don't always associate with depression fatigue, like real lack of energy.
Just wiped out all the time.
Exactly, and losing interest in things you used to enjoy, apathy, and yeah, like anxiety. If you have a history of depression, this phase can, unfortunately, make it worse.
Yeah. You mentioned irritability again. And we did see a lot about mood swings too, not just feeling a bit touchy, but something more.
Absolutely, like really extreme emotional shifts, going from okay to furious or intensely frustrated, sometimes over, seemingly small things.
Right, a disproportionate reaction.
Yeah, feeling totally out of control of your emotions. That came up in the personal stories quite a bit.
That must feel awful. And then there's the whole brain fog thing. It sounds kind of vague, but it seems to have a real impact.
It really does. It covers difficulties with memory, trouble concentrating, feeling like your thinking is just slower.
Struggling for words.
Yes, that too. Forgetfulness, getting easily distracted, finding it hard to multitask or even make decisions.
I can see how that would be frustrating. And probably a bit scary.
Definitely. Understandably, some women worry it might be, early dementia, which adds another layer of anxiety.
So your mind just feels fuzzy. And it seems like all this gets piled on top of everyday life stress.
Exactly. Things you used to manage okay suddenly feel overwhelming. Your sort of resilience seems to dip.
And midlife is often pretty demanding anyway, isn't it?
Totally. You might be juggling work, kids, maybe aging parents, financial worries. All that external pressure combined with these internal shifts can make you feel like you just cannot cope.
We saw mentions of feeling tense, losing confidence.
Yes, feeling unhappy, empty, numb, bad about yourself. And it's important to say, though it's less common, some sources mention even suicidal feelings, so it can be incredibly serious. That losing my mind feeling we heard about, it's capturing something very real for many people.
Okay, so it's a whole cluster of potential issues. What did the sources say is actually causing these shifts? What's driving it?
Well, it seems to boil down to a few key interconnected things. The big one is hormonal fluctuation.
Like the obvious one, estrogen and progesterone dropping off.
Exactly. But these hormones do way more than just manage periods. They have a massive impact on your brain chemistry. They influence mood regulation, neurotransmitters, the brain's chemical messengers.
Like serotonin.
Precisely. Estrogen levels affect serotonin receptors. So less estrogen can mean disruption to your mood pathways. It's a direct biological link.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not just in your head.
Not at all. Then the second major factor is sleep disruption.
Ah, yes. The night sweats, hot flashes.
Right. But also anxiety itself can keep you awake, or maybe a racing heart, or needing the bathroom more often. All of this leads to poor sleep.
And we all know lack of sleep makes everything feel 10 times worse.
It absolutely does. It makes mood problems worse, increases anxiety, messes with your thinking. It's a real vicious cycle. Poor sleep fuels the mental health issues, and the mental health issues wreck your sleep.
Ugh. Okay, so hormones, sleep, what else?
The third piece is life stressors. Like we touched on the pressures of midlife, career, family stuff, finances. These external stresses interact with the internal hormonal changes.
Making you feel even less able to cope.
Exactly. And some sources also mentioned sort of societal factors, how older women and menopause are sometimes viewed. That can contribute to feelings of loss or invisibility too. So it's often this mix, biological, sleep, and life stuff all tangled together.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture of the why. So the crucial bit, what can actually be done? What did the sources suggest for managing all this?
Okay, yeah, the good news, there are definitely strategies. Let's start with lifestyle things.
Things you can do yourself.
Right. Exercise came up consistently. Regular physical activity, brisk walking, yoga, swimming, whatever gets you moving, seems to really help improve mood, reduce anxiety, and bonus, it can help with sleep too.
Makes sense. Moving your body helps your mind.
Mm.
What about food?
Nutrition is important too. The advice was generally, a balanced diet, lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Some mention of phytoestrogens like soy maybe being helpful, but the jury's still out a bit on that. Keeping a food diary was suggested, especially to track things like hot flush triggers. And getting enough calcium and vitamin D is key during this time anyway. Generally, it's probably wise to ease up on caffeine and alcohol.
Because they can mess with sleep and anxiety.
Exactly. Which leads us back to sleep hygiene.
Right. Any specific tips there?
Yeah, trying to have regular sleep schedule, same bedtime, same wake-up time, more or less. Making your bedroom cool, dark, quiet. Avoiding screens before bed.
The usual good sleep advice, but maybe extra important now.
Definitely. And maybe avoiding hot drinks or too much alcohol right before bed.
Okay, practical steps. What about managing the stress and that feeling of being overwhelmed?
Yeah, stress management techniques were highlighted. Things like mindfulness, meditation, even just simple deep breathing exercises throughout the day.
Things you could do in the moment.
Exactly. Journaling helps some people process feelings, and consciously making time for things you enjoy, things that make you laugh. It sounds simple, but it can make a difference.
So those are things we can try to build into our routines. What about getting professional help?
Absolutely crucial for many women. So hormone replacement therapy, HRT, is a major one.
Replacing the hormones that are declining.
Right. Usually estrogen, sometimes progesterone too. By tackling the hormonal imbalance, HRT, especially estrogen, can really help with a lot of the physical and mental symptoms. It helps the hot flashes, the sleep problems, which then indirectly boosts your mental well-being.
Does it work quickly for mood?
It can take a bit longer for the psychological symptoms, maybe 3 to 6 months sometimes, according to some sources, so patience is needed there.
Okay. And what about therapies like counseling?
Very helpful. Talking therapies give you a space to work through the emotional side of things. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, came up specifically.
What does that involve?
It helps you identify and change negative thought patterns and behaviors. Apparently, it can even help manage physical symptoms like hot flashes, not just the anxiety or low mood. Yeah, but other types of counseling or psychotherapy can also be great for just support, acceptance, adapting to this phase.
Having someone help you navigate it makes sense. What about connecting with other women?
Yes. Support groups, menopause cafes, that sense of community, sharing experiences, realizing you're not going crazy and you're not alone, that can be incredibly powerful.
Finding your tribe.
Kind of, yeah. And of course, talking to your GP or a healthcare professional, ideally one with an interest in menopause, is so important. They can guide you through all the options, hormonal, non-hormonal, and refer you on if needed.
So you don't have to figure it all out yourself. Were alternative or complementary therapies mentioned much? Like herbal stuff?
They were mentioned, yes. Things like St. John's wort for mood, black cohosh, isoflavones. Some women explore these.
Wait.
But the evidence is pretty mixed, and it's really important to be careful. If you consider herbs, look for ones with the THR mark. Traditional herbal registration, it offers some quality assurance, and definitely talk to your doctor first, because they can interact with other medications.
All right, safety first. What about things like bioidentical hormones?
Yeah, the unregulated, compounded kind. Sources advise real caution there. Lack of standardization, lack of safety data. It's generally safer to stick with regulated options discussed with your doctor.
Okay, good to know. Any other complementary therapies? Acupuncture?
Acupuncture was mentioned. Some find it helps with physical symptoms and maybe general well-being, which could indirectly help mood. Aromatherapy too, using essential oils for stress or low mood.
Much evidence for those.
Less strong scientific evidence specifically for menopause symptoms compared to, say, HRT or CBT. But, if someone finds them relaxing or helpful as part of a broader plan alongside proven treatments, then
Okay, got it. And I think you mentioned non-hormonal prescription meds too.
yes. Briefly, if HRT isn't an option for someone, certain antidepressants might be considered. But, and this is a key point from the guidelines, they generally shouldn't be the first thing for low mood linked just to menopause.
HRT is usually recommended first for mood issues, unless it's diagnosed depression.
Exactly. Antidepressants are for clinical depression, which can happen at the same time, of course. Other non-hormonal meds, like gabapentin, might be used for hot flashes if HRT is out.
Okay, that's a really important distinction about antidepressants. So as we sort of pull this together, any final thoughts or key takeaways?
I think the main thing is everyone's experience is different. What works for one person won't necessarily work for another. So you really need to advocate for yourself, talk to your doctor, maybe keep a symptom diary that can really help you track patterns and explain things clearly.
Yeah, having that info handy for appointments.
Definitely. And just remember, there is help out there. There's a whole range of options. So don't feel like you just have to put up with feeling awful. Keep seeking solutions that work for you.
So to summarize, these mental health challenges during perimenopause and menopause, they're absolutely real.
Totally. Driven by that complex mix of hormones, sleep issues, and just life happening.
But, and this is the hopeful part, there are lots of effective ways to manage it.
Yes, from lifestyle tweaks, exercise, diet, stress management, right through to medical help like HRT, therapy, and other support systems.
So the message for you listening is, hopefully you feel a bit more empowered now to explore these options, to ask for help, and find what you need to navigate this time.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering everything we've talked about, the hormones, the sleep, the life stuff, what's maybe one small, manageable change you could explore this week just to proactively support your own mental well-being during this transition?
Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to look more into the resources available and keep seeking the support you need.